I am a West Point grad, graduated in 2000 and am an engineer. As everyone is very familiar, 2001 brought us September 11th. So I spent much of my mid-20s in Afghanistan and Iraq, and later went on to South Korea. I do have a master's in civil engineering. I have a focus in concrete, so I am a super nerd, but I also make sure that I keep my body as fresh as I do my mind. So I believe in continuing my academic studies. I'm starting my second master's this summer, but I also I've competed in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I've competed in CrossFit as an adult. This past September, I just finished a 700-mile bike ride for Team 1 Mile, where we rode 700 miles to raise awareness and money for Gold Star children. Gold Star children are those who have lost a parent to military service. And we were able to raise over $100,000 for those kids to send them to a summer camp, which is pretty great. So I do try to continually find reasons to lead myself as well as lead others. Probably the hardest job I have is I'm a mother and a wife, balancing those with being the type of person who has personal goals as well as goals for her family and goals for her children, and then wanting to be a supportive wife. That's always a juggle. So I think, not yet moving on to our next discussion point, but kind of foreshadowing, I think one of the benefits I bring to a lot of working people is how do you balance that work and your personal life? When I started, it was this concept of, hey, can I be the first woman? Can I break that glass ceiling? Can I pound through the barriers? But after a while, I don't want to say my thought process degraded, but it definitely changed, because what I saw is being a first, it could be this glorious or even conflict intertwined ordeal, or it could be a very personal experience. And what started happening over time is, instead of being a believers and disbelievers, it started becoming more about the individuals. And so I'm talking about the people I was serving with. And after a while, it wasn't, hey, can I change the face of the military? Can I change the way the Senate Armed Services Committee talks about women in uniform? It became, hey, there's a 22-year-old guy standing next to me who someday could be a sergeant major, could be a battalion commander. And those are roles that are extremely senior in our military. Those are roles where they have, 1,000 people in their command. And if I can change this young 22-year-old's mind about women in the military, that's more important than the Senate or some magazine cover, because that person's going to influence the thought processes, the programs, the standards of 1,000 people someday. I think high potentials is an area we think we're developing people, but we're not. So what ends up happening in a lot of companies, we take our best horses and we constantly race them, but we never train them. And so being an individual contributor and being a leader are two totally different skill sets. You need to be one before you can be the other, but a good individual contributor does not necessarily develop into a good leader. So very early in someone's career, we need to identify who our high potentials are, and we need to give them the skill sets and then test them on the skill sets that our companies need, so that we know who we should develop. A leadership communication is helping somebody understand the why without sitting there and having to go around the room and explain it 30 different times. A individual contributor communication is, how do you let people know what you're doing without always submitting a task list at the end of the day? I mean, there's a lot that goes into that, but again, there's a huge spectrum, and the courses are really focused on the niche group. Are we high potentials? Are we individual contributors? Are we leaders, or are we senior leaders? I think what I want to highlight is When I started working with ERGs, a lot of companies were bringing me in for an hour, 45 minutes. Hey, talk to my team. We need this to come out of this discussion. And then we'll wrap up with a 15-minute Q&A. Now, although that's fun, it kind of goes back to what I was talking about with regards to Ranger School. It's not necessarily the most impactful thing you can do.
No, definitely not.
So the modular system is set up so that we start talking, maybe it's communication, maybe it's impact, maybe it's self-marketing, but they need to be discussed at intervals so that we're coming back to this, even reminding people that you're identified as a high potential. I would say, even if you're not going away from this discussion and thinking, okay, this is somebody I need to book, this is somebody I want to talk to, the little sticky note I'd want you to take away from this is be impactful in your community. I don't want to leave anyone without a takeaway, and being impactful in your community not only makes you feel better, but it makes us a better place to live, a better world, a better state, a better city, a better village. Wherever you are, try to improve what's immediately around you. That's my takeaway.